So today in lesson 42, we are focusing on rounding numbers in order to estimate. Okay, looking at the very first part, it tells us the multiples of 10 are the numbers that we say when we count by 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and so on. Likewise, the multiples of 100 are about the same. It's when we count by hundreds. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. When multiplying by multiples of 10 and 100, we focus our attention on the first digit of the multiple. Let's look and see what that means. When it says find the product 3 times 200, what we would do in order to solve this quickly is I would focus on the 3 and the 2, okay? So it says that we can show 3 ways to do this. First, we can take 3 200s, repeated addition. Is that our quickest way? No. We could do 200. I know I've got 200s. I times 3. That's going to be 600s, which makes 600, right? Or I can do it this way where I do 200 times 3, which is the standard algorithm for multiplying. But if we look closely at the method on the right side here, I have 2 zeros here and I have 2 zeros here. So if we just focus on the 2 in the 200 and pretend like those zeros after the 2 are not there, it's a whole lot easier to multiply 2 times 3, don't you think? Yeah. Than it is to do 200 times 3. Sometimes when people look at a number that's bigger than a single digit, you get intimidated by it. And we don't need to, because here we're able to kind of remove those zeros for a minute and just focus on the first digit. We can tack them back on at the end. Question? Okay, example 2. 6 buses will be used to transport students on a field trip. Each bus has seats for 40 passengers. All together, so each bus can carry 40 passengers. All together, how many passengers can the buses transport? Okay, well, I know that I have 6 buses, right? Each one carries 40 people. So if I just pretend like that 0 and 40 isn't there, I can do 6 times 4 in my head, right? What's 6 times 4? 24. Now put that 0 at the end, so 6 buses can carry 240 passengers, right? Okay, here's another one. It says we've practiced rounding numbers to the nearest 10. Now we're going to learn to round numbers to the nearest 100. To round a number to the nearest 100, we choose the closest multiple of 100. A number line can help us understand rounding to the nearest 100. So let's look at our example. It says round 472 to the nearest 100. What I'm going to do is I'm going to underline the digit 4. This is my standard way of rounding. If I'm rounding to the nearest 100, I underline the digit that I'm rounding to. Books should be open right now, or you should be following along. Please be sure you are not doing something else. We're going to underline the digit in the hundreds place, and I'm going to look directly to its neighbor. If its neighbor is 5 or greater, what happens to the digit that I am rounding? It goes up. And then what happens to every digit after that place? It becomes a what? A 0. Very good. So 472 rounded, oops, I did this wrong because I had it on my screen too far up. So 500, oh, I'm moving it around. Okay, so this one should be 500. I was looking at the wrong one, solving the wrong one on my screen. Okay, now this one is going to be slightly different. If I'm rounding 472 to the nearest 10, what digit is in the tens place?
7.
The 7. I look directly to the right. If that digit is 5 or greater, the digit I'm rounding goes up, but if it is less than 5, what happens to the digit that I'm rounding?
Goes down.
It stays the same, right? Which means that the whole number goes down. So some people think round down. You are rounding down, but that digit is staying the same. So this is going to be 400, what?
70.
70. The number 472 is between 400 and 500. So let's look at a number line. Halfway between 400 and 500 is 450. Everybody see that right here? Okay, if I'm looking at 472, I know it's greater than 450, so it's got to be closer to 500. So I can look at that visually and see that 472 would round up to 500. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes.
If I know that 450 is halfway, I'm either rounding down to 400 or I'm rounding up to 500. If 472 is more than halfway, that means I'm closer to 500, so I would round up. Okay. Now, if I'm counting by tens on a number line, looking at 472 on a number line when I'm counting by tens, I'm either going to round 472 to 470 or to 480. Which one is it closer to? 470. So visually, I can see now that 472, it makes sense to round it to 470 because it's closer on a number line. Okay, here's another example. Erica lives about 1 mile from school. A mile is 5,280 feet. Round 5,280 feet to the nearest 100 feet. So if I'm using a number line, I'm going to have everything written to the nearest 100. Notice how all of my numbers end in 2 zeros. Okay? So I have 5,100, 5,200, 5,300. 5,280, 5,280 is closer to which number?
5,300.
5,300 or 5,300. So it would round to 5,300. Okay, here's another one. This one says round 362 and 385 to the nearest 100, then add the rounded numbers. So this is like getting us introduced to estimating. When it says estimate the sum of 362 and 385, I would round first. It's a lot easier to round 362 to 400 and 385 to 400 and add 400 plus 400 in my head, which is what? 800. It's a whole lot easier to do that than do, okay, I got to get an estimated answer, so I'm going to do 362 plus 385. Okay, 2 plus 5 is 7. That's 14, carry my 1. That's 7. That's closer to 700 or 750. Okay, which one took less time? Rounding first, right? Rounding first makes the numbers easier for you to work with. There's not a lot of point, unless it tells you to find the exact answer, then round it, okay, which sometimes it does. But if it says estimate to find the sum, you get to pick what you round to. You make those numbers easy for you to work with. They should be so easy that you could do it in your head. Can you add 400 plus 400 in your head? Yes, for sure. Make those numbers easy, okay? Make it easy to do. Let's look at another one. To help prepare for the school play, the students in Miss Jacobson's class arranged 9 rows of chairs in the gymnasium. The students placed 44 chairs in each row. What is a reasonable estimate of the total number of chairs that were placed in the gymnasium? Well, I know I have 9 rows, right? 9 is close to what? 10. That's an easy number to work with already off the bat. The students placed 44 chairs in each row. 44 is close to what? 40 or 50? 40. Okay. If I have to multiply these, because I'm talking about 10 rows, 40 chairs in each row, can you do 4 times 1?
Yeah.
What is 4 times 1?
4.
4. Then I tack on those zeros, so it's going to be 400. 10 times 40 is 400. It's so much easier to round first, not right now, to round first and then get your estimated answer. Okay, here's several examples. Okay, to find the product of A, I want to ignore the 0 right now, and I just want to do 5 times 7, which is what? 35. And then what do I do with that 0 that I ignored? I put it at the end, so 350. Okay, for B, I want to round this one, so, well, not round, but I want to solve it. So I'm going to do what with the zeros? Leave it alone for a minute. What is 6 times 3, everybody?
18.
What do I do with the zeros now? Add them. Okay, what is 7 times 4?
28.
What do I do with that 0 that I ignored? What is 4 times 8?
32.
What do I do with those zeros that I ignored? Add them. How easy is that? Okay. Now we're going to round each number to the nearest hundred. So what digit am I going to underline in E?
400.
I want to round to the nearest hundred, so what digit is in the hundreds place? 8. I look to the right. What would it round to? 800. Now think about it with the number line. Is 813 closer to 800 or 900?
800.
800. Okay, oh, I can tell a lot of us are visual people. I said that and you're like, 800, so much closer. 685, think about a number line. What is going to be my lowest number on a number line for 685? Is it going to be 300, 400, 500, or would it make sense to start at 600?
600.
600 compared to 700. It's either going to round down to 600 or round up to 700.
Round up to 700.
Would 685 go up or down?
Up.
Up because it's so much closer to 700, right? What's smack dab in the middle of 6 and 700? 650. Okay, so 685 is bigger than 650, so it's going to round up to 700. Okay, what about 427? Is it closer to 400 or 500?
400.
And then what about H? Ooh, it's thousands.
2000.
2,000 and
2060.
600. Very good. Y'all were right. 2,600. So I would have 2,500, and then I would go up to 2,600. Right in the middle would be 2,550. Since that number is bigger than that, it's going to be closer to 2,600. Okay, one last part. Then you can start. Round 297 and 412 to the nearest hundred. So is 297 closer to 200 or 300? Okay, so 300. What's this closer to?
400.
Now I want to add the rounded numbers. What's 300 plus 400? Done. Next one.
600.
600 and 300. Subtract the smaller rounded number from the bigger. 300. A community marching band marches in 19 rows with 5 musicians in each row. What is a reasonable estimate of the number of musicians of the entire marching band? Okay, what could I round 19 to?
20.
To 20. Okay, now if I want to know a reasonable estimate of the number of musicians in the entire band, I've got about 20 rows with 5 musicians. Can I do 20 times 5? So about how many are there? 100. Okay, so there are about 100 because it says explain, so I'm explaining. Because 19 rounds to 20 and 20 times 5 equals 100. Okay, 6 months is about how many days? What would you say the number of days is per month? About how many days are in a month? 30. Okay, sometimes there's 30, sometimes there's 31 in 1 month a year, sometimes we have 28 or 29. Okay, so we're just round it to 30. So if I have 6 months, about how many days is that? I'm doing 30 times 6. So yeah, 180 would be the correct answer, 180 days. Your work today starts on page lesson 42 starts on page 298. Please write the lesson at the top of